You're still with Political Capital, and I'm Tony Abad. Still with us, Congressman, well, former Congressman Roilo Golez, Congressman Gary Alejano, and former NEDA Secretary Romy Neri. Okay, sir, so you're now resting a bit.
Yeah, I'm on
taking it
a
easy.
sabbatical,
Okay.
so I'm not aligned to any party.
So
But
you're-
I've stayed in Congress long enough, 6 terms.
And free to
One
speak.
of the longest in the history of
And
the
free to
House.
speak your mind.
So when you speak of the sense of the House,
Yeah.
I can more or less still
Still
feel
feel,
the
okay.
sense of the House, the body language of the people there.
But we're going to talk about the sense of the House now. So, Congressman, there is a proposed House inquiry into this foreign policy direction of the President. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it unusual in the sense that, when you do inquiries, of course, it's supposed to lead to legislation, aid of legislation, or otherwise to have some kind of oversight.
Yes.
So what do you foresee or what do you envision with this House inquiry?
Well, I filed a resolution because of the pronouncements of the president when he went to Laos
Okay.
and before he went to China. Actually, everybody's confused. Even Chinese are confused with the statements of the president. All of us are confused. I'm saying that we're confused because he says one thing and retracts it after that. So I filed resolution number 483. The purpose of it is to assess and review the implications and consequences of the pronouncements of the president, especially to our economy and to our security, considering the fact that these pronouncements are major pronouncements. We're going to shift alliance to China. You're talking about the mutual defense treaty that we have with the United States, the Eastern Forces Agreement, and the EDCA. So I believe that the House would be able to really discuss in details and be able to even advise and support the
It's
president.
really a congressional oversight and advisory.
Yes, Tom.
Well, you think the Senate might also come on board in terms of inquiring into this foreign policy if they have not already?
I think I heard from the news that in the Senate they're also inquiring. There's a move to inquire on the policy direction of the president. In the House, I would like to state that I belong to the minority, and we have so many other resolutions that we're not given due course by the majority. And I hope this time around,
So this one hasn't been given due course.
yes, I hope that in the resumption of Congress, one of our researchers, they will take this up. And because in Congress, not like they're more concerned about the signal of the speaker from the president moving to something.
So Romy actually spent a good amount of time working at the Congress, Congressional Budget Planning Office. This is the kind of inquiry, congressional action to actually help sort of shape our foreign policy.
Well, Congress is the right to oversight and clarify matters here in the executive, which I think would have been unnecessary if both the president and his cabinet come up straight with what directions that we got to follow.
So this is talking about confusion.
Yes, because the president tends to speak straight from the heart. And the heart is a very changeable organ. So I guess we have to give it some due.
I was wondering, when you talk about the president giving confusing statements, he by design.
No, I think
To really
I think
confuse.
it's the precision of words. The precision of words. And I think, as Congressman Golez has said, diplomatic statements are very, very precise. And if we just veer one word away from that, it could be misinterpreted. And that's what may be happening. So if I may suggest, maybe the cabinet should come up together and say, these are the direction we're taking. We will not veer away from this. Of course, the president can say whatever he wants, but this is the direction we've already agreed on, which the president has also approved.
I get this impression the cabinet sort of waiting for the president.
I think they should be more proactive.
Yes. Okay. Now we've been talking about China from the start of the show, but you also mentioned another country, Russia. What do you think about that pivot?
I'm not sure about the
Russia?
pivot because economically we don't have much relations with Russia.
Less
Although,
than 1%, I think in terms of trade.
but there are possibilities of tourists coming from Vladivostok. So there's a potential, but otherwise the trade relationship is not as big as China or the US and Japan.
Maybe, Secretary, it's about maybe looking at Russia more as a military.
Yeah, Russia would be a very logical source of lethal weapons.
Yes.
I'd like to, I always have been suggesting that we should follow the example of Vietnam. Vietnam has a long history of conflict with China,
Yes.
and sometimes very bloody,
That's right.
over a 1,000-year period. But Vietnam has maintained open channels, diplomatic channels with China, in spite of these conflicts that could get violent. Like, for example, when China attempted to deploy an oil rig inside the exclusive economic zone, it resulted in a physical conflict, not shooting, but a conflict, using water cannons, Coast Guard, fishing vessels, some riots inside Vietnam against China. And it did not result in a shooting war because somehow some people always talk about the bogey of war when we assert our right. It would not result in war. Because some people say, let us not fight China because we cannot handle the
Yeah,
military.
there's always this
We're not talking
assumption
of,
that we cannot,
wars here.
war.
So in this particular case, I mentioned Vietnam because Vietnam buys weapons from Russia. They have missiles from Russia, about range of 300 to 500 miles. They bought 6 kilo class submarines. I think 3 have been delivered already, and this can give the PLA Navy a lot of headaches. Sukhoi 27 and Sukhoi 30 multi-role fighters from Russia. I think we can follow suit also.
So you think
it's a very asymmetric way of handling a giant country like China. But as I said, trade-wise, it may not be very logical because their major export there would be natural gas. Very difficult to import natural gas from Russia.
Now, sir, when we're talking about Russia, we talked about Vietnam's example of how it's dealt with China. In fact, China actually invaded it
1979.
in 1979.
And they got their nose blooded also. 20,000 Chinese soldiers were killed.
So obviously Vietnam hasn't done this out of fear, but
In Paracel Island,
it actually fought
57
back.
Vietnam there, Vietnamese were killed by China.
That's not too long ago. But still, they maintain sort of their own
Although now,
independent foreign
most of the
policy.
confrontation would be non-lethal. And we can follow. Because I think now Vietnam is also watching what we're doing. Because they look at the Philippines as part of the balance. But if we move in a direction that is unexpected, it would affect and disturb the balance.
No, but and you see, Russia is okay to be one of our allies in terms of military.
Well, I think for Russia, business is business.
Okay, it's basically supplier of.
That's right.
And I guess when you talk about trade, that's the trade.
They're a major exporter of weapons.
I'd rather not discuss potential military conflicts with any neighbor in
Yeah.
China. I'm not sure how productive these types of speculations are. China is much better engaged from a trade and economic relationship standpoint. There's much to gain from this relationship. And I think the president realizes that. Even during the time of the president, former president Bush, we signed about $120 billion worth of agreements. Although it was most of them were at MOU level. But many of these things were stopped during the time of former President Aquino. I think President Duterte is trying to revive the relationship because he knows there's a lot of value there. Maybe not all of this will happen, but some investments may be very useful for us. So I'd rather focus, as far as the relationship with China is concerned, on trade and economic, and possibly tourism relationship. Because China has 50 million tourists all over the world. And only during my time, I remember I was complaining to the Chinese ambassador, why are you only receiving less than 150,000 tourists every year? Of course, I say the hotel was expensive at the time. but this can be fixed now. We're talking about a lot of trade, the investment, and tourism relationship are very, very important.
It's actually logical to still engage China, especially for economic value.
That's why my feeling is talking about these micro issues of conflict here, conflict there. Maybe we better, I'd rather tone it down because there's much more at stake from an economic standpoint.
My problem there is that they continue to claim our exclusive economic zone. They claim 90% of the West Philippine Sea. How big is the West Philippine Sea? Well, our total exclusive economic zone is 2.2 million square kilometers. Our territory is only 300,000 square kilometers. That's how big our exclusive economic zone is. And half of that is primarily, it's also the West Philippine Sea. 90%. We cannot keep quiet about that because if we keep quiet about that, China might start thinking that we don't mind. They occupy Mischief Reef, they blockade Ayungin Shoal, they patrol Recto Bank or Reed Bank, they have blockaded the Scarborough Shoal. So that's something that we cannot ignore because just like in normal things, if somebody occupies your land and you don't mind for 10 years, 20 years, that occupant might think that you're giving it away already.
I have my theory why these things happen. These things never happen under GMA's time. I think the next president's time, they were totally pissed off. I think they showed it in so many ways. And we were playing the American cards. And the Chinese, of course, reacted also. And which to me was a totally unnecessary exercise. For us to keep on reviving this, we don't talk. The situation is bad enough on that front. I would not want to make it worse.
Okay, but now we're like swinging another back in another direction. But on top of that, it seems to be these, I guess, the disturbing statements. That's actually what's gathered us here to talk about this. Now, I wanted to ask the Congressman, talking about this U.S. sort of the bit of drama about shifting away from the U.S. or towards China, and sort of he comes up with a statement saying, oh, we don't hate you, we're not against you, but we're equal. And you've actually not treated us well before. You should now treat us as an equal partner. What do you think of that? In light of, we sort of have this very soft spot for the United States, but now this very harsh statements. And how do you see this now evolving into, your own congressional inquiry and your own opinion?
I believe that we can stand on our own and we can have our own independent foreign policy even without uttering those words, actually. Because in the past, agreements we have with the United States, specifically treaties, agreements with the United States, then our leaders were the ones who decided on these agreements. And we always review them in a manner that is friendly and beneficial to the country. Because if you say these things, very harsh words, it will be taken lightly by other countries because they have also reputation to protect. We have our own reputation to protect. So you don't say that to your friend. You say very harsh words and say we're still friends.
But Rocky, he's saying these things, I think, on purpose. He wants to elicit some kind of.
That's him. That's why he's famous globally.
A lot of people say, oh, if he only didn't say these things, but I think you can expect.
You cannot tell him not to do those things. He is what he is, and he will do what he will want to do. So I think telling him what to do is almost a useless exercise.
But my concern here is this: the president has very good plans for the country, but he has only 6 years to do it. And what's happening now is that the president is very popular. On the other hand, he's also clashing with an institution that is also popular. I'm talking of our friendship with the United States.
Yes.
And surveys show that. Pew Research says that 92% of the Filipinos have a good approval rating for the U.S. In fact, the highest according to Pew Research. SWS very recently, a few days ago, about 2 weeks ago, came out with a survey that shows that the trust rating of the U.S. is 66% plus 66% net, and minus 33% net for China. So that's a gap of about 99%. So I'm concerned that if these two popular institutions would clash, both would end up losing, and it could be a